Hello, everyone. So let's go ahead and jump right into discussing episode 6 and how it compares to the manga. So, this would be the picture perfect arc. So, it started off really well with how Nene is introduced with running into class, and I loved how we can actually see the tower in the background, which is pretty comparable to the manga, so it turns out really well, panel for panel, as she is running to her classroom because she doesn't want to be late, which is exactly how it is in the manga. And while there are subtle differences with who greets her in class, none of that really matters because who's really there? It's Hanako. But wait, it's not Hanako, it's Amane. And after proceeding to poke him and prod him, like, what are you doing in my class? Everybody turns and is looking at them, but there are some phrases that were changed, which I'm not really sure why they changed it, as what Aoi says to her is changed, and I'm not really sure why they changed it. I felt like they should have just kept it the same because the whole point of them being in this picture perfect world is, you're introducing yourself as somebody that you want to be seen as. So I think I'd rather be introduced as somebody who's really good friends with somebody versus somebody who's just inseparable with someone. And so as the rest of the episode tends to play out the same as it does from the manga, I felt like from this part where Nene pushes Hanako or Amane away from her, I felt like the scene did a pretty good job of animating Nene, but I felt she just looked a little bit more cuter in her manga self. And I wouldn't go so far as to say that some content was cut, but it was definitely moved as she goes from telling herself that she can definitely solve all of this. It jumps from that part straight into the sports scene, and the part from the manga that was changed around was the scene where she's attempting to figure out who this new Hanako is, but that part of the manga is moved around to after she dumps the salt on him. And once again, we can see that Aoi's dialogue has been changed from saying that he's kind of dreamy after she's talking about how good he is at sports considering his height to he'd be kind of a catch. So I'm not sure why they decided to change those lines. Maybe it was because of the fact that she supposedly likes Akane, or maybe it was just because she doesn't want to appear desperate for Hanako or Amane because of Nene's feelings. So as everything plays out as normal with him high-fiving her and she questioning why he's even bothering to hydrate, she finally asks about the tower. To which Aoi comes along and explains, which leads us into her running off into her 400-meter dash after Hanako wishes her good luck, and she's like, nah, I'm not gonna fall for this. Which she leads into dumping the salt on him, and everything else plays out just like the manga, which Hanako asks, do you not even like me? And of course, just like the manga, it plays out with her admitting to like, yes, I like you, and he asks her out on the date. But just like the manga, she is totally unsure about how she feels about everything, unsure if this world is even real or if all of this is just one big giant dream, as she is just totally confused, just like the manga. So that was really nice to see that a lot of this is playing out just like the manga, including this how we can see the tower in the background. And I decided to put these manga stills right next to each other because I felt like it was out of place, as these manga stills appeared right after Nene's chapter, and in the anime they appeared later on in the episode right before the pool scenes. So it just kind of switched around because the chapters kind of got mushed together, so we were kind of mushing chapters together here. Now, the dialogue for Kou's part of the story was the same. However, up to a certain point, though the dialogue stayed the same, at a certain point the dialogue changed and scenes were extremely cut, which I felt they should have been kept and included because these scenes that were cut from the manga definitely are important and should have been kept because they help explain Kou and Mitsuba's relationship later on down the line as well, which helps them feel more natural coming together instead of it feeling so forced in the anime. Plus, having kept those scenes from the manga in, I felt like it definitely would have helped make this little scene coming up right here, going back to him. It definitely would have felt more natural and it would have felt less forced if they had just kept those scenes in. Because although Mitsuba and Kou are extremely close, their relationship develops slowly over time. It's not something that needs to be forced so fast. So, episode 6 has mashed 3 whole chapters together. We've mashed 41, 42, and 43 into one entire episode. So, it's not so much as mashing chapters, but we're definitely mushing content and we are rushing through this arc. During the questionable scene, we learn that it's actually just him asking her to clean the pool, and we know why she is obviously hesitating because of the whole turning into a fish thing. And we learn that Kou is actually here. She learns that Kou is here and she's like excited because finally somebody's here who will understand her. And just like the manga, the scenes are pretty much scene for scene. She begins to talk in secret with Kou, and just like the manga, Hanako sneaks up on them and he dumps water on them to kind of break them out of this little whisper thing. Which of course sends Nene into a total panic because she does not want to turn into a fish. But I didn't really like that they changed how she freaks out, because in the manga she is still in human form, and then in the anime they just turn her into like her little gremlin form. So of course, after learning that everything is okay, we get this wonderful little scene where a lot of these manga shots were turned into animated scenes, which I thought was really great. So I'm just gonna go ahead and let you guys see that and be quiet for a minute. So after finishing cleaning the school pool, Kou decides to take a seat next to Nene as they intend to finish their conversation from before. And just like the manga, their conversation is interrupted by Mitsuba, who comes along and is bothered by the fact that they're whispering. Of course, he just wanted some drinks, so after being sated with the cold drinks, he is off on his own and he leaves them to continue talking, which leads us into how Nene sees Mei. And it does a pretty good job with keeping up with the manga panel for panel, screenshot for screenshot, with how everything is introduced, including how Oi and Akane are talking about Shijima, including her rumor with how everything is, including that how her family wouldn't let her become an artist, and she only had a certain time to keep painting until she graduated. And before she graduated, she decides to kill herself. Once more, we do see a little bit of some changed dialogue. She calls them failures and it's time to start over, where she slices up the canvases and we see Aoi and Akane being sliced up. Versus in the manga, she just calls them, well, she doesn't even call them anything. She just says that, well, the pictures didn't turn out quite well and she needs to start all over again and redraw them, to which she then destroys the canvases. Now, for some reason, this part just bothered me because in the anime, she doesn't even really look all that horrified by it. I guess later on in the anime, she kind of does a little bit, but in the manga, she just absolutely looks horrified. To which I think the manga does a much better job of representing that horror, because personally, if I saw my friend, my best friend, being shredded before my very eyes, I would also be in absolute hysterics and I would just be in total shock, just like she is depicted in the manga. Although the anime kind of tries to depict that a little bit towards the end of her freak out, I just feel like they didn't do a very good job of it. As I personally prefer the scene in the manga where she is clutching Kou's shirt from behind and she is looking up at him in absolute tears and horror, like, this isn't normal, is it? That just feels more like a natural response for somebody who is terrified compared to the way that they depicted it in the anime. Like, that's just me though. That's just me. And in the anime, she really doesn't even look all that scared when Mitsuba comes back and he's telling her, come back to work. And in the manga, you can totally see it on her face that she is horrified when Mitsuba comes back with a look on her face that says, I know a secret that I definitely shouldn't know that all of these people are now aware of, and I think we're screwed. So just like the manga, Nene realizes when Kou says that something is off about the world, Mitsuba finally admits that yes, so what if this world isn't real? They break off into a sprint, chasing Mitsuba down the pool and after him. That's when Hanako notices that they're chasing him, so they're definitely aware of something. Because honestly, Hanako, who wouldn't be suspicious of anything when they just saw what they saw? So it was very interesting to see that they went ahead and introduced May's rumor right away, considering that her rumor isn't discussed until chapter 54. In chapter 44, Natsuhiko and Sakura do make an appearance and they do mention her rumor, although they don't go into much detail about it until chapter 54, where May is talking about her rumor to Nene. Then we get the whole depiction of everything about her rumor. From chapter 54 to 44, where they're just talking about the whole rumors, that's a whole 10 chapters. So I guess we're just doing the whole content Russian things, like I said, we're probably going to end up doing, because the whole Picture Perfect arc is a pretty long segment in and of itself. So I think as long as we don't end up mushing more content and rushing things, I think everything should be just fine. So fingers crossed that everything turns out just fine for the next episode, and we'll see how many chapters they try to mush together, because like I said, Picture Perfect arc is a pretty long arc, but it's not anywhere near as long as the upcoming arcs. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all next week when we discuss episode 7. Bye bye.